Hey everyone, I'm Daniel Goldberg. I'm faculty member at the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus's Center for Bioethics and Humanities. For those of you who don't know me, I'm trained as a lawyer, I'm a historian of medicine, and I'm a bioethicist. So sometimes I'll do these little video blogs because I don't have time to write out the long blog post. And I was thinking this morning about the argument that I hear all the time, and I'm a historian ethicist, so this was pretty relevant to me, and I teach this one too. The argument goes something like this, that we shouldn't judge people who we, in retrospect, think behaved badly, because they were just behaving at the standards of their time, and that all we can do is really relate what they did and what were the standards of those time, and we're not really in a position to judge, because morality is always relative to the culture and the time and place in which it sort of sits. And I gotta be honest with you, as more time goes on, I find this argument less and less convincing. I teach it, we talk about it in a lot of my classes, but it doesn't make any sense to me, really, for two reasons. The first reason is because, first of all, in every time where something terrible is going on, there are almost always dissenters. There's always dissenters, right? So even if we say that the majority of people who behave badly, or these people who behave badly, were just behaving according to sort of the cultural standards of their time, there's always people who recognize that the cultural standards of those time are kind of messed up, okay? So there's always dissenters. There's always people who point out the moral fallacies of what are the prevailing standards of their time. So even if we say, look, we're only going to judge it by the standards of their time, that's not really a get out of moral jail free card for the people who are behaving badly, right? So that's number one. Number two is, look, I teach a lot about sort of the Milgram experiments and the ways in which ordinary people, including health professionals, are all too easily complicit in atrocity. This is a very common story. In fact, it's the most common story. We'd like to think that given the choices, we would behave differently, but the vast majority of the evidence, both historical as well as social psychological, suggests that we would not behave differently, that we probably would do these kinds of things. And we'd like to think otherwise, but probably we wouldn't. We wouldn't behave better, to be honest with you. And so, since this is something that's part of sort of human, I don't want to say human nature, but this is very powerful. It's the way we behave, and there are powerful reasons and incentives that encourage our complicity. All sorts of social and cultural factors, yes, there are relative to the times in which they appear. So they do change, but those incentives to be complicit, to collude, are almost always present whenever we look at retrospectively at this kind of complicity and atrocity, right? So people always are responding to pressures that are encouraging them to behave in these ways, and why that means they should get a free pass is, from a moral perspective, sort of beyond me. I mean, I'd like to think that we should be better than that, right? That we should do everything we can and take every step we can to try to ensure that we are among the minority who refuses to be complicit, because again, there always is that minority. There always are those dissenters who refuse to be complicit in atrocity. We'd like to hope we'd be among them, although probably we wouldn't. And so I think part of our job, as we're sitting here observing the bad behavior of people who acted in the past, is to try to identify what is it that enabled some people to act better. You know, how can we harness that? How can we make that kind of behavior more likely? And I think that's partly our job as observers, and especially when we start to talk about, you know, sort of health injustices and those kinds of things, that's what we really ought to be doing. So just sort of a video log to say I don't really like or understand that claim that we really can only judge people by the standards of their time, and thus we shouldn't, you know, judge them for behaving poorly because their standards don't line up with ours. Again, to me, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. In fact, as a historian ethicist, I kind of think that's exactly what we should be doing, and I hope that future people will judge my behavior the same way that I am judging people who behaved badly in the past. So I just wanted to throw this out there. Always eager to hear your thoughts and concerns. Thanks a lot.